We're here to discuss the 2024 two-episode series, Selena and Yolanda, The Secrets Between Them.
The docuseries supposedly tells exactly what happens leading up to the tragic loss of Tejano music superstar Selena Quintanilla-Perez in 1995 at the hands of Yolanda Saldivar. Yolanda Saldivar's first English interview from prison in decades, along with interviews with her family members, provides the backdrop for this series. In this video, we'll break down whether this docuseries is worth your time and what we did and didn't like about it.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
A lot of you requested that we cover this film, and I can't wait for us to talk about it. But first, we want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App or click the thanks button on this video, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia or become a channel member by clicking the join button to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber. Just to give a little bit of context, as we discussed, back in 1995, Yolanda Saldivar basically took Selena, the superstar's life. And subsequently, she was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole on March 30th, 2025. And if you're watching this when it comes out, right now we are in almost March of 2024. So they decide to essentially drop this docuseries about 1 year before she first can be up for parole. So keep that in mind as we're watching all of this.
Right. So when I heard about this, there was this trailer, right? And they made it like, ooh, there's some secrets you don't know. Yolanda is going to tell us what happened. And I'm like, ooh, yeah. Not like from a salacious standpoint, because it's like I could tell you what I knew. Mm-hmm. Because I did not know Selena while Selena was alive. I heard of Selena when Jennifer Lopez came out playing
with the
Selena.
Movie.
Yeah.
See, I knew about Selena, and I remember distinctly watching this Entertainment Tonight profile of her, and I had never heard of her before that, but then they were like, she is basically the Latin Madonna, and she's going to be big. And they talked about, I don't think at that time they talked about English language album, but she was on my radar because of that. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of the way that what's the chick, Hips Don't Lie, and Shakira, right? It kind of reminded me of the way that Shakira was really, really famous in the Latin world, so to speak, in Spanish-speaking parts of the world, because she was singing in Spanish. But then, it wasn't until she did her English-speaking languages that the rest of us really found out about Shakira, right?
Right.
And it was the same kind of thing.
And basically, what I heard after, the movie and all of that, is that this woman was accused of stealing or embezzling or whatever, right? Taking money from Selena as the fan club, as she was over the fan club. And that basically she was fired, or she was confronted over that. And then she took Selena's life. Mm-hmm. And that's what I thought.
And that because that was like the narrative, right? Yeah. That had been out there, and that would be the quote fact that, those of us who actually remember, because I remember when it happened and I was like, oh my goodness. And then, the aftermath and how everybody was just mourning. I remember that during her, because, they had where it was like a visitation where her fans could come and through and look, and it was a closed casket. And at one point, the fans did not believe that she was in there and that she had really died. And so they actually, the family and whoever, felt that they should open the casket, and they did. They opened it so people could see, like, Selena really is in here, and it was just it was a big deal, and people were just so sad about it at the time. And if you lived through some of this stuff, that is also providing context when you're starting to watch this documentary. And for those of you who don't remember, or it just wasn't on your radar, then at least maybe you could approach it with a clean slate. So let's get into what did they actually say in the documentary? What was the backdrop? So the backdrop is her family is especially Yolanda's family, is especially her niece, is kind of spearheading this "we're going to expose the truth" sort of thing. They start out with her going into this old storage unit to show, oh, okay, we've got some secrets. You see file boxes or, like these totes that have stuff that, after 30 years, she's about to tell you what the real deal is.
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of boxes. I'm like, oh, yes. Because yet again, I don't know. And the way that they put the trailer out, we're about to see it all. And then when it starts, I think it was slow.
Very.
And they were taking time to get there. We had to rehash Selena's life.
So this was like a 2-part kind of a docu-series or whatever, right? And it just is repetitive.
Right. So you had the family, right? Some of the people interviewed.
Yolanda's
family. You had a modern journalist who I guess covers Selena's life and maybe Tejano's American experience.
Mm-hmm. She was from Univision, yeah.
Yeah. You had an author who wrote a book. You had the prosecutor in the case.
Mm-hmm.
And who else did we have? We had the hostage negotiator.
Yes. So there was a lot of interesting, the setup is very interesting. You're like, okay, I'm about to find out what happened. So yeah, again, they did, in my opinion, they wasted a lot of time talking about Selena's life because everybody like we already know the deal. We know how she came up. Most people seen the movie by now, so we already knew that. They did talk about Yolanda's early life, how she went and became a nurse and stuff. And so that was interesting because you might not have known that. And then the documentary gets into kind of this dun, 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 and it's just very annoying how they presented everything.
They lead you on for a long time, right?
Yes.
There's these secrets that are going to come out, these secrets, and the family pulls out their storage of truth, and then they go sit at a table and they start pulling out little things one at a time. And it's basically this stuff has been around they have been adding to it, Yolanda's family, adding to it for the past 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then, 30 plus years. And then you get in about 30 minutes and they like, Selena cheated on her husband.
Yeah. So Yolanda is basically saying that Selena had this affair with this doctor in Monterrey, Mexico. He was a plastic surgeon, and that Selena and Yolanda would be flying to Monterrey, and she would be, basically openly having, being with this other guy. Now, Yolanda was close enough to Selena that she knew Selena's husband. And so, Yolanda felt like, according to her, that she was put in this weird position because you got me traveling with you while you are with your side piece. And yet I know your husband and this is, that kind of thing. Right. So that's the first bombshell that she drops. And I'm just like, okay. So initially this doctor denied that they had an affair. Now the doctor supposedly was introduced to Selena by her father. Okay. So he's also older than Selena is at this point. But supposedly there's this torrid affair, and at one point they pull out some alleged love note that's like really small and incognito that's supposed to prove that they actually had an affair. But then they string you along with this, and then they distract you with some other things, and then later in the documentary they come forth, and the doctor has admitted, right, that. Oh, or not admitted, but claims that he, did have this affair with Selena,
10 years ago or something.
Yeah. So 20 years in, he comes, 20 years in, he comes back and says, yeah, we did, haven't heard from me in a while. Yes, as a matter of fact, I did deny it initially, but we did have an affair. And so, all of this stuff to me seems very sketch. And the thing that I think you can't lose sight of is that, Selena was 23 years old when she left this earth. And it's like, it feels grimy that you are besmirching what I would call her good name, because she had such a positive name, and that there also was supposedly a legitimate reason as to why Selena and Yolanda were traveling back and forth, because, apparently Selena's one of her dreams was to have, a fashion line. and, to be able to have clothes and sell clothes. And she even had a boutique and stuff that she had in the Corpus Christi area of Texas. And so, this is where she was supposed to be, the doctor was supposedly an investor, and she was going back and forth to get things set up, so that's to me the legitimate side of why she could have been doing this. But, you got people are motivated by lots of things.
But it was something that I didn't know. I didn't know that she had a boutique, and that was nice to see footage of that.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have a lot of pictures and videos of her because, maybe they couldn't use them. But also at the time, people weren't just going around taking a whole bunch of pictures and video of personal, right?
Yeah.
The only kind of your official stuff, which you have, footage of.
Because back in 1995, if you had a camcorder or some type of way to record video, it was big.
And it was an ordeal to be like, all right, we're going to film so much of this, of our boutique and stuff. But they did have footage, and the building was still there, and, there's a business working out there.
Like a carpentry business, I think it was, that was there. So that's this affair. The other thing that they contend is that, they make it like, okay, Yolanda became first Selena's president of her fan club, and she had some interactions there. And then she became like Selena's assistant, and she was working directly for her, not just simply the fan club. And so there's this issue over what everybody thought, which was that Yolanda was accused of stealing monies and this and that. And the family is like, what money? What money could she have taken? There was no money that she took, right? And then later on, it turns out that actually Yolanda was writing some checks to herself and things. But Yolanda says the reason she was writing it is because it was for this secret travel to go see the secret lover in Monterrey, Mexico.
Yeah, and that Selena told her to write the checks out to herself.
Yeah. So, so you do all of this arguing and stringing on early on to say, what money? There's no money. But then later on, they just slide in, well, there wasn't money, but you might find checks that Yolanda wrote to herself, right? Like, come on.
Right. But, one of the things, too, is that she was this crazed fan and all of that. So they had to try to dispute that. And whether they were not friends, they really did make a case to say that, look at all of this. These were people who were friends, and they got pictures of them together and stuff. And basically how, she was a part of the fan club, but then she just basically side by side with Selena, and like you said, as an assistant, but also as, her friend.
Mm-hmm.
And they spent a lot of time together, and they were actually friends.
Which was also interesting because, they were not, the same age. Selena's, in her early 20s and Yolanda's in her 30s at this point.
Yeah, I don't think it's that much different. But Yolanda's family, too, also, her niece was a big part of this, who was saying that Selena was my friend, too.
Right. So I guess at some point, Yolanda brought her family members in to also work for Selena or, work through the fan club, whatever,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then that's where later on is, the year of her passing. Hey, you're taking some money, basically. Mm-hmm. So the deal was that people were writing back and saying they weren't getting the stuff they were supposed to get when they paid to join the fan club.
Right.
So if I join a fan club, hey, you may send me some T-shirts, some posters and stuff. And people started writing in and saying I'm not getting the stuff. And they were writing Selena's father, who was her manager. Or
calling her father. And I'm like, okay, how they just had his number to call him and get in contact with him.
He was the manager, though.
But this is the claim of Selena's father.
Right.
See, the thing is, I don't know that we ever really got independent claims that, or heard from somebody who said, hey, I ordered my stuff and I didn't get it, or any proof that was the case. So she's been accused of, funneling monies or not doing whatever. But what I thought was a good point on Yolanda's behalf was that at the time that this is all in question, Yolanda wasn't even in charge of the fan club.
Yeah, because she left the fan club and basically was just being the assistant.
Right, working directly for Selena. So somebody else was in charge of that. So to me, that was a point in her favor, right?
And the claim by Yolanda is that she was working with Selena in a boutique, and Selena, if you watch the series of Selena, I think it was on Netflix, but they show a lot about her fashion and them getting ready and creating outfits and stuff for Selena to go tour and stuff. And so basically in this documentary or this docuseries, Yolanda was talking about how Selena really wanted this boutique to work and everything. And the father, Abraham, was just like, no, he was against it because it would take away from the music. And he didn't have anything to do with the boutique and the clothing. He just was the manager on the music side. And he thought that the boutique was taking her away from that. So to try to get her away from the boutique, then that's where these claims against Yolanda, who was basically helping her run that, to get her out of the way. And Yolanda thinks that Abraham believed if he got her out of the way, then basically Selena wouldn't have the boutique, and that would take away from his vision.
And according to Yolanda, and I think they kind of tried to show some paperwork to prove this too, that, Selena's boutique was not doing well. And what I think is weird is like, why would her boutique not be doing well when it's like in her hometown and she's so popular and she has so many fans? Why would the boutique be fledgling? But it just seems like maybe, like she had the talent to do the art, but she might not have had the business talent and didn't have enough people who did, because, Yolanda was a doggone nurse. What she know about running this business? So she didn't really, Selena did. And Selena was young. She didn't have anybody to really handle the business aspects, but she knew she wanted to keep the boutique. And so basically it was like, hey, they didn't even have enough money for payroll at points and stuff like that. So, the boutique just wasn't doing well.
That's one thing that makes me believe that they were actually friends, because when you might work with somebody, become friends, and then you have them doing other things. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, okay, we're friends. I'm starting this boutique. Come do it with me.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what it was.
Right. And so back to the whole idea of Abraham, Selena's father. And so apparently Selena's father had confronted Yolanda, and according to them, and, cussed her out and everything. Selena was there when he accused Yolanda of impropriety. Right. And so, Selena didn't want to believe that her friend was doing this, according to Yolanda. And so she never believed her father, but the father had it out for Yolanda. The other part is where Yolanda's like, hey, this image of the father, like the father is a scary guy. She accused him of like flattening her tires, basically being out to physically harm her, and saying that, he would have people do it, not that he would do it with his own hands. And so she was afraid. And this leads into why she went and bought the piece.
Yeah. Because she didn't have a piece before, and that, it's like, okay, if you weren't planning on doing this, then you wouldn't have had a piece, right? And she say she was just scared, and that's what happened. But part of that is left out through history is that Yolanda and Selena maintained a friendship and or working relationship. So all this stuff with the doctor and everything was going on after Abraham confronted Yolanda about whether or not she was stealing money. And then the family played voice messages.
Right.
What do you call them back in the day?
On your answering machine?
The answering machine tape, where Selena was calling Yolanda about basically, just trying to find, hey, where are you? And,
wanting to meet up. So the issue is supposedly Yolanda had financial records because she was running and Selena needed these records in order to file her taxes and move forward with her business without Yolanda. So that's the supposed claim. Yolanda is like, I wasn't fired. Abraham and the family are saying, Yolanda was this disgruntled employee who was fired. But Yolanda, what's produced is this letter of resignation written by an attorney that basically Yolanda had resigned she was not fired and that she had resigned after the point when they had discussed it. And Yolanda says Selena didn't want her to resign. She's like, how you going to leave me with all of this? And, it was believable in a way because everybody's resigned from a job where the person doesn't want you to go. And they're like, oh, come on, you could stay, and that's kind of sounded like what happened.
But after that, they were still going to Monterey together.
Yeah.
That is clear.
Yeah.
They were going to Monterey together. And also, Yolanda claims that when she was in Monterey, something happened. She was attacked and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think even in Corpus Christi, she was attacked, I believe.
Yeah.
So the day before or somewhere near before the actual shooting, they even went to the hospital together because to see what was going on with Yolanda's injuries. Right. So it's not,
So it's not the story that we had in our minds like, oh, Selena's stuff for some reason is over just at the day's end and she's, innocently coming to pick up something or to get something or even to fire Yolanda because we really don't know. Or for the first time confront Yolanda about these things and then Yolanda just offs her.
Yeah. But
doesn't seem to be what exactly happened.
But everybody claims that they were at that meeting with Abraham together. Right. Mm-hmm. And then they continue to have this working or personal relationship up until the shooting. So there was all a bunch of time to do that. So to me, it just doesn't seem like that was an issue between them two.
And I think that the records, like this idea that Selena is trying to get the records from Yolanda, and even Selena's husband had said, hey, the day before that he had taken her over to try to get records from Yolanda and that Yolanda gave her some stuff, but it wasn't what she needed. And that she was like, I'm going to go back there first thing in the morning and get these records. And this is when the incident actually occurs.
So even if all that's true, that just takes away some of the stuff the idea of who Yolanda was, right? Mm-hmm. So they were still friends and everything, but she still shot her.
Yeah.
And admits that she is the one who shot her.
Mm-hmm.
So
she said it was an accident, though.
Yeah.
She say it just went off, and
that's basically what she says.
But supposed witnesses say that she came out after she did aim and fire. That she called Selena a B, as she had been So I don't know how true that is. That could be from
either side though too. Yeah, so who knows? Because if I get shot, I'm gonna call you one.
No, Selena didn't say it.
Well, but
that's
what the prosecutor claims, right? When you have a witness, you be like, "Oh, somebody said this," and then you in your arguments just be like, "And she called her a B."
Yeah.
But I don't know. They didn't have any witnesses or anything on this documentary.
Well, and I don't know if I want to be a witness in this either. But this leads into a good point where the police, and to represent the police in that side of things, you had the prosecutor there. And just in general, the police from the time, they seem now looking back a bit like you need to be questioning what they said because they seem untrustworthy to me.
Prosecutors.
Yes. And and for instance, they acted like they knew nothing about this resignation letter. When the producers or whomever asked, they said, okay, but what about this resignation letter? So here's the deal behind that. So after everything happens and Selena is now, gone, and Yolanda has this long standoff where she's sitting in her vehicle and, they got to get somebody to talk her down. Inside of the hotel room at the day's end was a safe. Inside of that safe is Yolanda's purse and apparently a copy of this resignation letter that she had with her. But tell me why the police never even looked in the safe in the room to find her purse in there at the crime scene. I would think, let me get in this safe. But apparently they did not. And it wasn't found until a couple of days later when the staff came in to clean the room.
And the letter was referenced before. So in the interview, the prosecutor's like, what resignation letter?
Yeah.
Bruh, y'all always lying. A resignation letter. And it was referenced in I guess some depositions or just some
with
interrogation.
The husband, right? Because the husband made reference to Yolanda had served them papers from an attorney
resignation.
Yeah. So that was considered proof, and I think that's proof that she communicated that to them, because some people could say, well, she didn't actually mail it, or it wasn't. No, a copy was sent, at least one.
Yeah, but one thing I didn't know was that she was shot basically in the shoulder, and basically bled out because it hit an artery.
And I was thinking, man, because they say she ran from wherever the room was, and I didn't have a good feel for exactly how far that was, but ran from the room where she, was shot all the way to the front desk and into the lobby. So, and, was like, lock the doors or whatever. And so she succumbed, from her injuries that way. And, you got to wonder, if you ran, that's like making your heart go faster and pump out even more, I would think even more quickly. And maybe that's something we need to ask Dr. Dula about.
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, so this was the situation. And, we know that Selena didn't make it after that interaction. And then they tried to use some of what Yolanda said to the negotiator during the standoff, as that she never said it was an accident, but the negotiator like planted the idea that it was an accident, as they discussed, as he was trying to talk her down. And I think that after something happens, you're just so probably just your brain is fried and you're panicked, that I don't really know how much of anything you can that comes out of it. They probably speaking gibberish.
So the problem we have is, I want to do this docuseries so that I could dispel all of the myths, right? And then you laid out pretty much good for a good point. You wasn't just a crazed fan who was whatever, or somebody who was jealous and blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't just strictly over being confronted over money and stuff like that, right? And it's that, okay, let's say I believe you up until all of that. But the point where somebody gets shot is where I'm like, okay, I don't know if I can believe you all the way now that you just say it was an accident, because she claims she basically put it to her head and was telling Selena, I will do it. And then Selena started to leave.
Yolanda put it to her own head.
Right.
Like she was going to take her own self out.
Yeah.
And Selena's like, gotta go. And she goes to the door, and Yolanda's like, don't close the door,
And then basically popped her. So that part is, no, I don't know if I believe you.
And so I just think that I feel like at the end of all of this, I don't really know anything more than I knew before. But what I
do know that there was this relationship up until the end.
Well, let me edit that thought. Let me say, I feel, because there were things that I personally learned that were new. Like, I didn't know about supposed affair with the doctor and this and that and certain details. But I guess what I should have said is that people who followed this case closely, this whole idea of the affair with the doctor, that wasn't new information. So the people who were really on this case the whole time and on the message boards and knew every fine detail, they already knew there would be nothing new. But I guess the point is that the masses should know.
Yes, because I think that's what matters. It don't matter if people who are deeply into it know. I want to try to clear my name, right? But I don't think she's going to be able to get parole that's coming up. But to me, it still doesn't change how I feel about, okay, you took this person's life, because I don't think that the reason changed that much, because I wasn't given a good enough reason to be like, okay, yeah, it was just an accident. And I think that's what they wanted us to come away with.
She's always said that it was an accident. I remember hearing before, or at least hearing
but this was supposed to prove it.
Yeah, and I don't feel like it proved it in my mind. Now there, like I said, she got some points in her corner, because I did raise my eyebrow about a couple of things, and the TV personality, or the I guess the journalist from Univision, she said, hey, Selena's father is like a scary person. And, and they were like, well, why? And she was like, I'm not going to tell you that on camera. So that kind of put some doubt in my mind. Well, not doubt, but it made it possible that
that you bought this piece for a reason.
that she was being harassed in my mind. But then what I also know is, like, let's think back to the movie Selena. All right, Edward James Olmos, he played Selena's father in that film. And a lot of times what gets, I guess what sticks in our mind is whatever the image we have of that person. And I a lot of times might think of the actor, even though I've seen her father in interviews, right?
No, he always plays like a real good guy.
Good guy, right? Edward James almost like Stand and Deliver and teaching the kids from the inner city. Like, so that was, to me, a great cast, because no one would believe Edward James almost was like this bad guy. He's always, to me, this good guy in the movies I've seen him in. So that, and then this idea that, I mean, he was painted in this documentary almost like he was a gangster. And in case we didn't explicitly state it, like, Selena's family didn't have anything to do with this. And they had a statement from her father basically saying that he was a liar. Yolanda was a liar. I'm sorry, basically. A previous statement. But that she's a liar and she's not to be believed. And I'm sure it's probably very painful to have these things unearthed, even after 30 years. But
and I guess that's why they really didn't go into the details of what happened, right? They didn't hash out the crime scene and how far she had to run, or even how she passed. I've Googled that to figure out, because they were like, bam, she got hit in the show. Well, they didn't even say that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how was she able to run and do all this? And that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah. But the other question that I have is, who was paid for this? What's the deal with the proximity with her first parole hearing, being so within a year now? We hadn't heard from her all this time. Now they got something to say. And I'm wondering, because I guess it's like she's, as a convicted person, can't get paid, but her family probably could get paid, right? So was her family paid to appear in this documentary? And is that money that they're now going to try to use to defend, to help her get out?
I don't know if you need money for that, right?
You need an attorney, and I don't know if she's just using a public defender. Maybe there's monies that they might need for
I think you just go in front of the parole board. And then the parole board just be like, well, you have no remorse. You just keep saying it's an accident. Stay in there.
So and then who got paid from this besides the network itself? Like, what is my motivation as a family member to sit there and say all of this? Because after all of this time, she's done her life in prison.
All right. So a lot of the times, and we've seen with like Making of a Murderer and stuff, when you do these documentaries, there's pressure put on these the new people in place. The old prosecutor is always going to be like, no, what we did was right and we didn't do anything wrong. Who cares if we covered up evidence that didn't happen and all of that? But the new one in place is like, let's look at this case and then bring it back up and that sort of thing, right? So it brings it into the public awareness that actually causes change, right? But I don't think this is a situation where we got any new evidence or anything that would exonerate her. Right? Or overthrow her conviction.
Right.
So I don't know, but I think that could try to sway people if there's enough talk for people on the parole board to be like, well, this person doesn't deserve to still be locked up. But I don't think they made a good enough case on the point of it being an accident versus intentional murder.
Yeah, like I don't think she's gonna get out. And let me just also say, when I watched people's reaction to the fact that you have, the person who took out Selena now coming forward to say something and people wanted to pay attention, folks were disgusted. People were like, how freaking dare you come forward and have anything to say? Now, that wasn't my reaction because I always feel like I at least want to hear it. But to me, this turned out to be a crock of nonsense that could have been a 30-minute little discussion, say what you had to say. But instead, they chopped up her testimony, not testimony, but they chopped up her interview into all these parts to slide it in between, old
I'm like, just tell me what
and
happened.
You're trying to tell me a story. I need to see just the uninterrupted interview of what this woman is saying that happened.
Yeah.
But you all created
But you can't really monetize that.
Well, and it was about money.
Yeah.
So those are the questions I have. Who got paid?
Well, people who make
besides the
documentaries
network?
and stuff, that's who want to make the money. They don't care. Right?
Yes.
So they like, let's just cut this up. Let's string people along because instead of telling what happened in the room, let's go all around the world. Let's show all this box of evidence and not talk about anything or supposed evidence and not talk about anything. They pulled out a couple things at the table and acting like they're discussing it. But I just think the ones who make these docuseries like this, they had one with about the conspiracy theories with Eazy-E and stuff.
Oh,
They're all just trash documentaries because they're acting like they're doing some sort of investigation and they're really not.
Well, and let me tell you, when I was a kid, there was this thing that, everybody was watching on TV, and it was actually Geraldo Rivera, who would later wind up having the Geraldo show. But this was him when he was trying to be a journalist before he had his show of salacious people fighting and stuff. It was Al Capone's vaults. And so people sat up there for a whole night. This was live, though. It wasn't a documentary. I take that back. It was live. And you're sitting there and they're like, we're going to open Al Capone's vault and see what's in his vaults. And we sat up there and watched this. And like I said, I was a kid when this happened. So, I didn't know that much. But I knew it was supposed to be this gangster's vault. And we going to see, is there some cash money in here? What is inside this vault? And it was a complete dud. It reminds me of just things that get you, enthralled. And then there's just nothing. Is nothing. This documentary was, to me, just a nothing burger. A
nothing burger.
It just, I was just like, now this didn't need to be 4 hours. Now I could have maybe respected it a little more if she had something to say, and whoever edited it and did this at least kept it under an hour.
Terrible.
This could have really been done in 30 minutes, but I would have given you an hour. But I didn't need 4 hours. I did not need 4 hours, and this was some nonsense.
That's what a lot of people say about our videos.
Well, you know what? We give you the long version. There are lots of people who just tell you the short version, but when we're doing the breakdown, we break down scene by scene and everything. Yeah. And that's what we do.
In this docuseries, that's not what they did. In this docuseries, they just kept saying the same things over and over, right? Mm-hmm. And is a good portion of it is like, there are going to be secrets. It's not what you think.
Yeah.
And they never get around to Yolanda Saldivar actually telling us things.
Because it ain't nothing to tell. Because to me, I think that what it is just that it was one of those things that was heated in the moment. And I believe she probably didn't intend for her to lose her life, but maybe she was doing a warning shot. I don't think that it just went off on accident, And it just would turn out to be a tragedy that she didn't intend, or at least had immediately regretted.
I don't know. She probably didn't know how to use a gun or whatever, right? But I still didn't get a good enough explanation because I think it can, quote, just go off. And you have people in there, maybe the prosecutors, like, guns don't just go off. Yes, they do if you don't know what you're doing. The phrase just going off means more than not
more
being
than like I
just
didn't touch it and it just miraculously went off. Right.
But yeah, but it sounds like you believe it wasn't intentionally done.
I don't think I don't have an opinion as to whether she intentionally shot her or not. I don't know. What I do believe is, I don't believe she intended for her to lose her life. That's what I'll say. I don't think she intended to take her out. I just don't think she intended that.
Do you think she intended to commit an act that will result in her losing her life?
Herself, you mean?
No, Selena.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Well, there's a difference to me.
Yeah. So, no, I don't think that she intended to even commit an act that would result.
If you shoot somebody, that could result in it, right?
Yeah, I don't think if so, I don't think she thought that part through. Just think.
Do you think it's possible that she intended to shoot her?
Yes, I think that's possible. Do I know? I don't really know. I accept that this is how I look at it. I accept that there are some things that we're just never going to know the fine details of. We never going to know all we have is evidence. That woman is going to take to her grave probably the complete truth of the matter. And we'll never know. But we do at least witness testimony is that, Selena's last words basically was like, this is who did it. It was never in question whether she did it. The question was the motivations and why it happened. Yeah. So, but for those of you who are thinking you're going to find out a whole lot new, I wouldn't even be bothered. And I feel like this falls more on the side of, manipulation by these smut networks.
Yeah. It could have just been one episode or one so-called documentary.
But they milked it.
Oh, yeah, they definitely did.
And that didn't fall to me in the favor of Yolanda at all.
Nope, but that is really all I can say about it, because I guess people know the story. But if there is a documentary about the events that happened that day and leading up, I would like to see it now, because I feel that I didn't get it.
I think there are, because I feel like I've seen one, but we'll have to go and search that. If you know of one, go to the comments and let us know. And go to the comments if you've seen this and tell us what you thought about this documentary. Do you believe Yolanda? Do you think that they should have made the documentary? Did you find it repetitive?
If you made it this far into this video, type secrets in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around until the end.
And don't forget to check out videos across all of our channels that'll be linked in the description. Make sure you're subscribed, because we're putting out videos all the time and some of you might not be getting those notifications. So check out all of our other videos and this video on the screen right now.